I just want to apologize to Mike's mom and Josh's mom and all the people who couldn't make it to the live taping of Studio A today. I'm so excited about our guest today because his film popularized the found footage genre. I'm scared to close my eyes. I'm scared to open them. Because I don't want to miss any of this Studio A. Welcome to George Mason University's Studio A. My name is Rick Davis, and today our guest is the well-known horror film writer and director Eduardo Sanchez, who's created films such as The Blair Witch Project and Lovely Molly. Please welcome Eduardo Sanchez. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
You've had an amazing career already as a fairly young man, if I may say so myself. And what I'd like to know first is what got you interested in film in the first place?
You know, the biggest thing I think was Star Wars. I was around like 9 years old when it came out, and it was kind of this big event.
Yeah.
And I didn't even see the movie. It was kind of just like the hype that built up around it, and the photos and the trailers and the commercials on TV. And then I finally, like probably 3 or 4 months after it came out, I finally saw it, and it completely changed my life. And basically anything that had to do with making films, I was into at that point. So that really is what started me in filmmaking.
Were you one of those repeat Star Wars consumers?
Yeah, I mean, not that much. I was more like, even to this day, like I have a huge, like, ridiculous Star Wars collection. And it's not really about the movies. It's just about like the event. The event of it. Like I love just the making of it and how the special effects and the story of how he got it done, and that's really what got me into the actual how they did it was more interesting to me. I mean, I love the film, but I just love how they made it.
And then you went to film school, right?
I did go to film school. I went to film school at the University of Central Florida, and it was like we were like literally like it was like experimentation. It was the first year of the program, and we were like going to school in portables in the middle of the Orlando sun, and it was just but it was a great program because nobody knew what the hell they were doing, and there was a lot of equipment, and they kind of just let us do what we wanted to do. But it was a great experience. It was just like it was almost like boot camp, like a film boot camp. It was just kind of had to make up our own rules, and the faculty was great, but they really hadn't, they were just kind of experimenting with us.
On you.
Really, yeah, on us, the first class. So we got to do a lot of things that most people don't get to do in film school.
Well, you had to make a film, right? Gabriel's Dream was your first sort of major project?
I went to Montgomery College in Rockville, and I did a feature film there when I was 19 called Video All, which I shot on VHS. The lost format of VHS, and it was like this goofy comedy kind of. It wasn't a horror movie; it was kind of like a thriller. And then Gabriel's Dream was the first film I shot on film. I raised like $3,000 or $4,000 for my parents and my grandmother and other people I knew, and I bought 16mm stock, and I made this film. And it was it's not a great film. It was I was 21. But it taught me a lot. It taught me like how to fail, which is not an easy lesson.
Yeah. And did you make that with some colleagues from school? Or
I mean, basically, I went to film school the first year, and I had a plan. I was like, I'm going to write a feature script, and next summer, between the 2 years, I'm going to direct. I'm going to make this film. And then that whole first year was basically, trying to, obviously, learn in my classes and, keep up with all my classes, but also, take this plan that I had. First semester I wrote the script, And the second semester was basically trying to get people, trying to raise money and trying to get the equipment. And the whole big deal was like, because I wanted to shoot the movie in Maryland, was getting the equipment from Florida to Maryland was a huge deal. So yeah, I got a bunch of people from my film school to help, and it was kind of this family that we made this film over the summer of '90, I think, or '91 is when we shot it.
And then really sort of the next big thing for you was a really big thing, right? Which was the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, I mean, Gabriel's Dream kind of came and went. It did the festival rounds and it did all right. But like I said, it was kind of my big lesson in failure, which is a big thing. It's like a lot of people, it's most of the time it's people are just kind of fall off the cart at that point. And I was about to quit. I really had, I don't know, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I was kind of in a dead-end job driving a truck around delivering blueprints in the DC area, and we had this idea that Dan, a guy I met in film school, and I had come up with, and we called it the Woods Movie, and I was stuck in traffic on the Beltway somewhere, and I was like, man, what am I doing? So I called him up and I was like, Dan, we got to do this Woods Movie, man. We got to do it. It's like, what are you doing? And Dan was doing some, he was editing, but he was kind of stuck too. So it was '97 or '96. We started getting this plan together to make what would eventually become the Blair Witch Project.
Now we actually have a clip from the Blair Witch Project, which is a really good way of sort of talking about this found footage style that the film sort of made famous. So let's watch this. Actually, set this clip up for us real quick if you can. This is a clip out by the stream.
Yeah, it was one of these moments that, because we shot the film completely improvisational, so we had kind of an outline of what was going to happen in the movie, but there was a lot of moments in the movie where the actors kind of just came up with their own things, and this is one of the big moments when we saw it for the first time. We never knew what was going to happen, so we kind of experienced it as the audience experienced it. It was a pretty amazing thing for a filmmaker to see something that a movie that you're making, and it's something that's completely new. So.
All right, well, let's watch.
You guys were online me about the map, were you? Because this just seems like you guys are having just a little bit too much fun for my taste.
Heather, we're just going a little stir crazy. Heather, if you make me yell at this point, I'm gonna have to yell at you, man.
Come on, seriously, if you have the map, I just want to know that you have it. That will just make me happy, just to know that you have it.
Heather.
If I know that you have it and I can at least see it, I will feel much better.
Like, all we're trying to do is be cool with you.
Well, I find it very cool that I get laughed at because my shoes are wet for the rest of the day. I find that fucking hilarious.
Heather, dude, all our shoes are wet. We were laughing at the situation.
Fine.
We're fucking hungry, we're fucking tired. What the hell else are we supposed to do
what?
at this point?
I kicked the... I'm sorry, it's fucked up. It's fucked up, but I kicked that fucking map into the creek yesterday. It was useless. I kicked that fucker into the creek.
I fucking hope he's kidding.
Wow!
Mike?
Holy shit.
I really fucking hope he's
Mike,
kidding.
are you kidding?
I really fucking hope he's
Mike, are
kidding.
you fucking kidding?
Sorry, man. I'm sorry.
You've got to be kidding me.
Mike,
You have got to fucking be kidding me.
fucking
Get the fuck off me, man.
What the fuck are you out of your fucking mind?
I'm not out of my mind.
Right,
The map doesn't
man.
do a shit
Do you
for me.
realize? Not to you, but I do what the fuck that map says.
Sorry.
You are a fucking asshole.
I'm sorry.
You're a fucking asshole. And
The map wasn't doing shit all day.
if we get hurt or if we die out here, it's your fucking fault. It is your fucking fault. Do you understand? I can't believe you could be such an asshole. What the fuck were you thinking?
fucking with my shit here.
Okay, no, I'm not. I'm not.
Your
I'm not.
map
I'm
was
not.
useless.
This was your
It
own.
was
That map
useless
was
to
useless.
you.
So that film, that scene has a tremendous build. It has an arc. It has development, and all of that was improvised.
Yeah, I mean, I remember we were watching the footage, and we couldn't watch all the footage as during the movie because it was 24 hours a day. We had the actors out there, and we would just watch little pieces whenever we could. And I remember watching that scene, and it was just like, my jaw dropped because it was this amazing moment that they captured. So yeah, it was kind of this just magical experience where Dan and I kind of, set them up, and we built this world around them, and then let them loose, and they, they created some really crazy moments.
Were you on set with them during the filming of these, or on location with them?
No, I mean we were following them sometimes.
So it's almost like a lab project.
It was total like it was total like like a rats in a cage, and we just kind of shock them every once in a while.
Did they know where it was going?
No, they didn't know. I mean, we didn't let them read the script before they went out there, and it was literally like Heather, Josh, and Mike, these 3 actors from New York. They didn't know each other. Heather didn't know anybody, and we were like, all right, you guys are gonna go into the woods and spend a week out there. We're gonna shoot, you're gonna just shoot the movie and stuff. And it was a crazy experience because it was just like it was a total experiment. We had no idea if it was gonna work, but we felt that it was gonna be the best way to bring about the performances and to bring about the realism that we thought we needed for the film.
And not only was that kind of a new thing, and really a discovery, that whole found footage style that we end up seeing on the screen, but the marketing of this film is a story in and of itself. How did you come up with the concept of sort of framing the film as part of a larger project?
The original idea for the movie, which Dan and I came up with when we were in film school, was like a documentary about the disappearance of these kids, and a documentary about this footage. So the movie, the Blair Witch Project was going to be like a narrated doc with interviews of the families and investigators and all that stuff, and then we were going to show maybe 45 minutes, maybe half an hour of the footage, just the most, the best stuff. But then once we strung the footage together, we kind of realized that there was a story there, there was its own kind of movie at that point. So that was kind of the original idea. So the marketing for it was basically, there was a show called Split Screen on Bravo, and they showed our investor reel, which was like just the way we raise money, and their web, and this is like in '98, so it was like the internet was like
just barely there.
Just barely there, and their website blew up. Their discussion board went crazy, and people were like, "What? Is this real? What is this?" And this and that, and so at that point we decided to build a website just to kind of throw people, because we had absolutely no money. We were like, what are we going to do? You can't put any commercials out or anything. So the website was the only thing that we could do. So the website, it happened to be that I had built websites before, and so I built the website. I had the most time too of all the guys in the company, and so I built the website, and it was basically just like, if this was real, how would I build a website? What would the website look like? And that's what it was. So then the website kind of took on its life of its own. And once we got into Sundance and we went, we headed to Sundance, it was the most hyped, the most anticipated film of Sundance that year because of the website and people were already talking about it. And then also when we entered Sundance, somebody at the festival had made a copy of the movie. And the movie started making the rounds on VHS, so we would get emails from people in Japan and
so
people all over
that's like
the
going
world.
viral before going viral.
It was going viral, yeah, and even now, like people
going viral by mail.
Yeah, people approach me all the time and talk to me about how that's the way they first saw the movie. They're like, I got this tape and it's this real thing, and they would show it to their friends and stuff. So. And
I read, and I just want you to confirm or deny that the Blair Witch Project is, in one sense, the most successful film ever made, if you think about it as terms of return on investment.
Yeah, it's one of the most profitable movies ever made. It was
amazing.
the initial investment was like about $20,000, maybe a little bit less, and then it ended up making $240 million worldwide.
It's astonishing. Congratulations.
Thanks.
But moving on, your next film was called Altered, and there you were introduced to a new co-writer, Jamie Nash.
Yeah.
And that has become a collaboration.
Yeah. He's pretty much helped me, or co-written or written all my films since then. Altered was it was actually a movie called Probed. It was a script called Probed. I love the title, and and it was kind of like a dark comedy about alien abduction, and I had kind of retired. This was like in 2004, 2005, and I had we had gone through the whole Hollywood system. We had done a TV show, and we had kind of failed, and we had tried to make another movie after Blair Witch, and had also failed. And it was just first of all, it was a different time back then. There wasn't like the idea of making another Blair Witch movie, especially a found footage movie, was like that was not even an idea. I mean, it was just basically nobody had, it was like an experiment. So there's nothing about, okay, let's just take the cameras into the woods again and make another movie. So we had gone through a sequel for Blair Witch that didn't work, that the studio kind of shoved down our throats. And we had made a lot of money on Blair Witch, so there wasn't really any need to stay in, to do the Hollywood thing. So I kind of semi-retired. I moved back to Maryland, and got married, and my wife started a family. And it was a while before this script came to me probed, and it was just kind of reignited something. Like, it made me want to make a film for the first time since Blair Witch. And it happened to be that Jamie lives in Ellicott City, which was 45 minutes from where I live. So it was kind of weird because I was doing this. The script could have come from anywhere in the world. So it was kind of fate that I met Jamie, and so we hooked up. And
you've done another film since then, Lovely Molly, which I'd like to get to, because we have a clip from that. And what I want everybody to look at, and maybe you to talk about a little bit, is, again, we have this this almost a found footage thing, but it's a whole different environment. It's a real spooky interior, really tight horror film kind of environment. Let's watch this clip from Lovely Molly. So that's very interesting. So that's kind of a combo platter of techniques, right? There's some footage that she's got in her camera, and then there's a sort of an omniscient camera watching her watching that.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that?
Yeah, the movie was basically somebody videotapes themselves going through a possession or through some kind of psychosis, and I didn't want to do a found footage movie because I just felt that it wasn't the right kind of film to do that with, and so but I wanted to use kind of the found footage, the style. So it was kind of an experiment to mix the two. So whenever we see Molly with her camera, we see through her camera, and then we have the regular kind of video.
And things we understand that she's seeing could also be shown with the other camera, but they're not.
Yeah, like she's seeing things obviously in her head that we're not seeing. So.
But through a camera, that's whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, look out.
Yeah.
Very good. That's terrific. We have questions from our studio audience, I believe. Who's the first? Yes.
Hi, my
Hello.
name is Emily. Based on your experience, how hard is it to break into the film business?
Well, I got really lucky, but it's pretty damn difficult. You have to kind of create your own position. There aren't any there aren't any want ads for writer directors. But you know what? You just have to kind of do what you want to do, and hope that your resume is basically the stuff you do in your film school. So, do something that kind of gets people's attention, and you never know what'll happen. But yeah, it's very difficult. You just got to keep going and be realistic about your abilities.
Thank you.
Sure.
Do we have another question over here? Yes.
Hi, my name's Chris. What's your opinion about getting a degree in film?
I think getting a degree in anything is pretty important because it definitely helps you out, and it's just good to have that as a background. But it's not completely necessary to be a filmmaker. I mean, there's plenty of filmmakers that don't have any degrees at all. But going to school and being among your peers and the competition and making deadlines and all that stuff, kind of it's a primer for what you're going to face in the real world. So I think it's important to get some kind of training, whether it's a film school or even just making films with your friends. But so it helps. It's not an absolute necessity, but it absolutely helps.
Great. Couldn't agree more. Anybody else? Yes, over here.
Of all the jobs, which job is your favorite when it comes to making a movie?
My favorite job is the writing process because there aren't any limitations put on you at that point. It's just the raw idea, and you can play a lot. You can go anywhere, and then once you start writing, you get it in the script. Then the real work begins, and you start kind of limiting yourself and just being realistic about what you're going to do. But the writing process to me is just is the most kind of creative and the most kind of just out there that you can kind of have fun with.
Great. Who else has a question? Over here, yes.
Hi, my name is Daniel. I was wondering, what do you think is the best directing method for getting the best emotion from your actors?
It's a big question. I mean, there's so many different ways to do it. I mean, the most important thing I think beyond like the methods is the first step is get to know the actor. I think that especially as I get older and as I have kids of my own, directing actors is sometimes has a lot to do with being a parent. Sometimes you have to kind of figure out who they are, and you have to find a way how to motivate them and how to make them do certain things. And it's not like an underhanded way or anything, but there's a lot of actors that like you to completely take them by the hand and lead them beat by beat through a scene. And there's other actors that don't even want to talk to you. They're just like they just want you to throw them into the scene. So you kind of have to figure out what the actors need and kind of give it to them. And sometimes it's it's support, and sometimes it's tough love. But that's just the basic thing that you have to know before you even start working on anything else with the actors.
Great. Does anybody else have a question for Eduardo? Anybody else? Going once, going twice? Yes, right there. A follow-up.
Do you have a favorite film or favorite director?
I have a lot of. I mean, it's kind of a tough. It's a tough question. A lot of. I love a lot of filmmakers. I mean, probably my favorite filmmaker, most influential, is probably Steven Spielberg. For obvious reasons. But I like all kinds of movies. I love. Do the Right Thing. Kind of really shaped me when I was younger. When I was in film school. Martin Scorsese films, but like I said, Star Wars, The Raiders of the Lost Ark, Blade Runner, even a movie like Notting Hill. It's just like I like all kinds of genres. And then horror movies for me, The Exorcist, the original Amityville Horror, and Jaws, and The Shining, The Changeling. It's there's so much talent out there, and there's so many good films, that it's very inspirational.
Well, that's a wide range of genres that you've just talked about being inspirational.
Yeah.
And you have sort of made a name for yourself thus far, anyway, in the kind of the horror genre. I mean, have you sort of stayed with that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if somebody would have given us $1 million around the same time as Blair Witch, you know, and said, what do you want to do? We would have said, we want to do a comedy. Because that was, Dan and I were always, you know, the jokers, and we still eventually, one day we're going to make a comedy. And so horror wasn't really our thing. Blair Witch was just the best idea we had that we knew we could put on our credit cards.
Incredible idea. Well, and it made you, it was very successful. It also kind of made you really kind of famous.
I mean, you know,
was that a blessing or a curse?
No, I mean, it's both. I mean, it gave me a career, and, you know, I'm talking to you right now because of Blair Witch, so I'm very grateful. And, you know, and I understand that, you know, it was the right film at the right time, and it was, you know, there's a lot of luck involved. There's a lot of hard work and, you know, talent and everything, but I think that there was a lot of luck also. But yeah, but at the same time, it's, you know, it's this huge, I'll always be known as the Blair Witch guy, and that's a good thing, but at the same time, you know, I make other films, and you know.
When you make your comedy, it'll be spectacular because the Blair Witch guy made this comedy.
It will, yes, that's the plan.
Yeah, and that'll be a scripted piece, right?
Probably. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, maybe.
You might be in it, man.
Okay.
We might be shooting it right now.
This is it.
This is it.
Ladies and gentlemen. No, one more question, and it's sort of about your current project. This film called Exists.
Yeah.
Which is in production right now.
Yeah, we're editing it right now.
Yeah. Tell us about what we should look for.
It's a Bigfoot movie. It's like no Bigfoot movie you've ever seen. Like when I was young, Bigfoot to me was like, you know, scary, and it was like this creature that lived in the woods. And I love the fact, you know, it has become kind of a punchline, and I love the jokes about Bigfoot and stuff. But to me, there's still this kind of creepy creature that could live in the woods somewhere. So I made, you know, it's a Bigfoot movie. It's like the basic story of, you know, kids that go out and they run into it. But it's good. It's really fun, and it's probably my most commercial film to date. And we hope to debut it soon. And we're like in the last month of editing right now, so we're just kind of getting down to the nitty-gritty.
So now I get the title. Exists.
Yes, it exists.
Perfect. Yes, all right,
yes.
very good.
Yeah.
Well, Eduardo Sanchez, this has been a real pleasure, and thank you for sharing your time, your talent, and your insight with us today on Studio A.
No, thanks a lot for having me,
Come
guys.
on back after you
you.
make your comedy.
Absolutely.
This has been Studio A. I'm Rick Davis. Thanks very much for watching.